Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cloud Tech TV podcast. This episode was recorded at the end of June 2024. And how are you, Raz?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Eyal. How are you?
I'm great. Excited to record another chapter in the weekly news, in the monthly news.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. Cyber doesn't stop, man. I'm a show for cloud as well.
As someone working in the industry for more than 20 years, yeah, I know. I read the blog posts and news almost on a daily basis. It's kindly horrifying when you read all the news about the new attacks, new ransomware. But it's something we need to learn how to live with. We need to engage with our customers, with our organizations to see what we can do better to do the security posture much better. So if you're already talking about security, would you like to begin with the security related news?
Yeah, let's do that. You know what? I'm ready. Yeah, so let's
Okay.
uh let's have it. One more thing I want to say before we're gonna just jump into the news. We always need to manage the risk. Yeah, because the attack's gonna be there all the time. They're gonna wait for us, they're gonna be sophisticated, but we need to understand that the risk is basically fit to the threat that we are facing. So let's jump to the first one. Eyal, you're not gonna believe it, but today I merge cybersecurity attacks together with cloud services. I'm not gonna take your headlines, but the attackers, surprise, surprise, they know to use the cloud. So recently, what the Fortinet guys found that they not just know how to use the cloud, they actually leverage it. They created their C2 cloud, which is the command and control for DDoS attack, to leverage bots. They use the cloud mechanism in order to spread the malwares, control and be able to do it globally. And this is something that in our back of our mind, we say, yeah, they can do that for sure. But now it's very operational and it's in the news. Are you surprised, Eyal?
No, it's part of the evolution, the technology evolution, the security evolution, even the cloud security evolution.
Yeah, yeah. Shift and lift, no? Let's move on. So move on to Moveit. Surprise, surprise, and I would say it again, Moveit have another vulnerability. So we thought we are behind that. We thought that they are already resilient to another vulnerabilities that hit the world, but they are back again. What is different from previous time? Now we have fixes. We have fixes that can be updated, their software, and all of you that they are using Moveit, especially big companies, global companies, for SFTP, for any other file transfer, do the update. If you didn't do that today, should be yesterday.
You consider this part of the supply chain attack?
This is exactly the point. Thank you for mentioning that, Eyal. Supply chain attack, just for the audience that are not aware with what is supply chain attack, it's actually using and leveraging kind of transport capabilities in order to move a product, a file, an artifact to make the entire pipeline be executed or delivered to the relevant customers, the relevant company, internal, external. But yeah, the moment you have a vulnerability inside your supply chain attack, have higher distribution. And this is the key element. Yeah.
It's like
Uh,
any product that have an automatic update capability is basically vulnerable to this. And this is something that on one side, from a customer point of view, we somehow need to trust the vendors, but from the vendor side, they need to higher the bar in terms of reviewing which packages they're using, their entire software development cycle, so to make sure that when they're developing, when they're pushing code that eventually will impact customer, they need to be aware of it before just clicking an update and notify customer there's a new patch. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I like to use a sentence that I use in one of the big enterprises that I was working for. Not just trust, but also trust and verify. And this is exactly what you are referring to, I think. And this is what we need to do as practitioners. This is what we need to do as professionals. And this is what we need to do that for people who actually have the accountability to make sure we are secure. So thank you for pointing out that one. So we spoke globally, but you know it, Eyal, but not sure everybody know it. I'm in the other side of the world. I'm in Southeast Asia. And I wanted to bring news from this part of the world because we usually speak about the US, China, Russia, but I want to speak
don't
today about
forget Europe.
Europe, yeah, Ukraine, uh, Indonesia. Yeah, most of us that listening say, "Oh, I know Indonesia because I heard about Bali." Yeah, it's a diving spot. But this time, Indonesia got hit by, and they are not different from others. Lockbit hit again. Some people will say, "Hey, it's not the Americans already blocked these guys." So Lockbit, we call it a franchise attack actors. Tomorrow morning, we're gonna have, today it's Lockbit 3.0 that used the ransomware against Indonesia. And this time they had no mercy. They attacked 200 government services, disrupted airport, immigrations, any other activity in the country. Imagine how much disruption a ransomware can influence a country, not just a small business or medium business or enterprise, a country. And for what? They ask for $8 million for a country. And guess what? Indonesia currently refused to pay them. So this one was reported 2 days ago by Reuters, and we will see. We will see what's going on. I will look very closely. It's in my morning news over here in my side of the world.
Are there
Moving.
any rumors or assumption about who's behind it in terms of
Mm,
countries?
There are rumors. I can say that most of the time, God forbid, I don't want them to think that I'm like racist or something, but most of the actors in this side of the world are either North Korean or Chinese. Yeah. And they like to attack this region different ways, sometimes for business perspective, and sometimes they just want to try a new tools. And it's kind of a game for them. They
So they're
do
using Indonesia as a playground.
as a test bed, exactly, as a playground.
Mhm.
Because next time they're gonna eat something bigger, maybe Saudi Arabia, yeah, maybe Aramco again, yeah. But yeah, it's absolutely a playground, and unfortunately, not all the security capabilities and the maturity that we see there in Israel or the US or other countries, they are not always mature in these locations. So yeah, I hope for them that things gonna be better. But yeah, let's let's move to our next one, which is Red Juliet. I some of the funny names that I like to catch during me looking at blogs, and I look at this one and I say, okay, what's now? What's going on right now? And we spoke about the Chinese, and this is an espionage crime group that targeting Taiwan. And I'm sure all of us know why it's happening. And if not, Taiwan and China have a macro conflicts for many, many years. And now it's like even going to different directions. And China want to leverage it. Yeah, they want to exploit vulnerabilities. They want to do a test. They want to be ready for the next maybe cyber war, maybe yes, maybe no, but they use a significant types of tool to exploit firewall, VPNs, different techniques in SQL. They try to use some open source vulnerabilities and web shells, and it's working for them. No serious damage so far, but it's been discovered. So I hope Taiwan will be stronger. Are you worried about the semiconductor
They
over
should
there?
stay tuned for what's
Yeah.
coming next.
Yeah, I'm most worried about the semiconductor industries over there. You know, this is the main industry for entire world. We look at spoiler, we're gonna speak about Nvidia today. But without them, Nvidia gonna have lots of challenges. So it's not just gonna affect Taiwan, it's gonna be a global impact on lots of technologies and also on our iPhone. Yeah, I don't know if you have an
Exactly.
iPhone.
So if you're looking for your next brand new iPhone or maybe Android phones, stay tuned because you may have shortage in processors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From Taiwan and Southeast Asia, I'm taking a fast, rapid jump back to New York, where New York Times got hacked. And following other hacks that I saw since the beginning of 2024, maybe it's the fourth one, GitHub becoming to be the place where you can get token if you're a attacker. This is the place. It used to be other locations, but now GitHub is coming to be the king of, hey, I want to have like how the coded tokens in the code. I want to have credentials. I want to have any type of secrets that I can maybe exploit other companies, other software. You know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to GitHub. So unfortunately, New York Times got hit, and they say that, and it's so surprising, they are just throwing the ball, yeah, on GitHub and say the stolen data, including the IT documents and the infrastructure of the source code, happened. All this storing, it's because of the repositories in GitHub, because some credentials and tokens were unsecure. Hey, take responsibility. It's your company. You have customers. You have employees. Never put the responsibility on your vendor. He will never gonna do the security as you can do as a company, as an enterprise, or any medium or small medium business. And don't leave your secrets at the code.
So after
Doesn't fit. Yeah.
after I don't know how many years of we heard the news about companies making a mistake, leaving an Amazon S3 bucket exposed to the public internet, and information was stolen for it. In this case, we have GitHub repositories, which were, I'm guessing, configured to be a public one. Unfortunately, it's a lot of the things we see in modern applications which are using source code repositories such as GitHub. I don't know. One day we need to record a session about SDLC, but specifically in the focus of modern applications. So maybe we'll be able to share some insights about at least the best practices, how to secure your code.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. And one of the things that I want to share is that today the challenge is even bigger. So I'm not saying that New York Times didn't took the accountability or I hope they have the SDLC processes and policies in place and governance. But today, because of the surge of AI applications and how many different types of applications speak with another application, workloads with workloads, and we have like a very complex infrastructure when we need to make sure there is authentication between machine to machine. So the old traditional ways, when you put your secrets or your keys or your tokens in Excel sheets or inside the code or in a key management
Or in
or
the
do,
same folder where your application actually runs.
it's not operational anymore. Cannot work.
It's
The
not
scale
scaled, it's not secured, it's far away from best practice. Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah. And thank you, Blipping Computer, for for bringing this news to us. And the last one for me today, and I promise to speak about Nvidia. I don't know, Eyal, do you have stocks in Nvidia?
I refuse to comment.
Okay. I will take this.
But as anyone else in the industry or around the globe, I see the stock market goes up and down. I mean, when you go this high, when you're so much revenue, one day you're up, one day you're down. I'm hoping for their sake that the situation in Taiwan won't impact them, but in any way, the demand for their new GPUs, the latest GPUs, is huge around all cloud providers, around many companies who are actually trying to consume that, to do the best out of generative AI applications. So we still need the Nvidia at least more couple more years with us.
Yeah, and that's for sure. And you know why I ask you? I ask you because you were the one that refused to comment. But if you were Jensen Huang, the CEO of Nvidia, for sure you have lots of stocks over there. And one thing we both of us can agree, because they became the most valuable company in the world right now, there is a huge target on them. Remember how many attacks have been against Microsoft and Apple? And what's going to go up next?
Because of the popularity. Yeah, I agree.
Popularity, the evaluation, the money stream that they have. They put a target on their back and they need to be ready. That's what I want to say. Do you agree?
And they have enough resources to either recruit the best security expert in the industry just to protect, because their intellectual property is worth tons of money. You just need, I mean, they can't really live without it. And basically, at the moment, there's an perception in the global industry for anyone who just like to think about generative AI. The next thing he thinks about is, okay, how do I get Nvidia GPUs? It's like comes together. It's not that they don't have competitors, but there are most of the industry belongs to Nvidia's GPUs.
Yeah. So yeah, that was my my last one. I'm bringing back to you, Eyal. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. For me, I learned a lot. Okay, so let's begin with some cloud-related news from June. So AWS had their annual security conference called AWS Reinforce, and this year it was hosted in Philadelphia. And personally, I watched the keynote. It was streamed live a couple of weeks ago, and most of the conversation were from the AWS CISO. He shared from his knowledge. He shared some of the best practices that AWS are currently implementing, probably for a couple of years now. And there are a couple of announcements. So the first announcement is called Passkeys as second authentication factor in AWS Identity and Access Management. And in case you don't know, Passkeys aims to make sure that all your accounts are more secure using passwordless login in place of the traditional password, and it's been protected using digital key that can be reused. Passkeys are based on the FIDO2 authentication standard, which stores credentials based on public key cryptography. And you can see implementation of many of the latest browsers already supported, and Apple supported, and Google supported with their Android phones. So most of the industries is moving on in order to use passkeys. And basically what the announcement means is that out of the list of supported multi-factor authentication or second factor authentication that AWS IAM supports, now it also supports passkeys. So this is the first announcement. And by the way, this is relevant for both Amazon root accounts and for the regular IAM users. So kudos to AWS for raising the bar in terms of security. The second announcement also pretty interesting. It is called Amazon GDuty, malware protection for Amazon S3. Many organizations are using cloud services, specifically object storage services, such as Amazon S3, Azure Blob Storage, Google Cloud Storage. And one of the issues with object storage, unlike regular storage, is that you can't really use the standard anti-malware protection mechanism, at least for, let's call it, signed attacks, as we used to have anti-malware for many years. So this specific capability is part of the Amazon GDuty service, which is a threat detection service that continuously monitor, analyze, and process specific AWS data sources and logs inside the AWS environment. It uses machine learning to identify unexpected and potential unauthorized activity in the AWS environment. And specifically for this announcement, malware protection for S3 helps to detect potential presence of malware by scanning newly uploaded objects to the Amazon S3 buckets. And when an S3 object or a new version of an existing S3 object get uploaded to a bucket, GDuty automatically start a malware scan. So far, only a small number of anti-malware vendors had an integration with object storage, but now it's fully integrated and a built-in capability inside of AWS ecosystem. So this is the announcement for Amazon. Let's move on to Microsoft. So I was trying to look for a new announcement or interesting stuff from Microsoft side, and I found out two interesting documents. The first one is a white paper that's called GDPR and Generative AI. It's a document meant for organizations in the EU that are using generative AI or deploying new application based on generative AI and needs to comply with the GDPR regulation. Some of the key highlights from this specific white paper, and there are a couple of them, I'm just gonna mention just three of them. Responsible AI. It mentioned tools and resources developed by Microsoft to support responsible AI deployment. The second thing is GDPR compliance framework for generative AI, which explain how GDPR principles apply to AI solution, focusing on data protection in the use of generative AI services. And lastly, Azure OpenAI service, which is a collaboration between Azure services and OpenAI, which is now a fully managed service by Azure. In the document itself, they offer information about how Azure OpenAI service, how it measures to prevent abuse and harmful content, and how it complies with privacy and security standards. So if you're developing new Gen AI applications and need to comply with GDPR, I highly recommend you to read this document. Another announcement, it wasn't really an announcement, I found on one of their blog posts. It's called Controlling Data Egress in Azure. As an architect, when we design secure architectures in the cloud, we need to consider scenarios such as traffic from private resources that requires access to external resources. An example can be, I don't know, I have a virtual machine that needs to consume an API from the public internet. Or maybe I have a virtual machine or a container that needs to update the latest security patches, naturally from an external resource. So when we design the application, we need to understand what are the restrictions. And why I'm saying restrictions is because in Azure specific, when we compare to other cloud vendors, by default, when you have internal resource, like a VM, like a container, like a function, when it needs access to external resources, by default, outbound access is unrestricted. And if you do want to restrict the access to make sure that all communication happens internally inside your internal subnets, you need to configure what is called a user-defined route. By default, there is no user-defined route, meaning you're going to the public internet. If you do want to restrict it, like we used to do in the on-prem with the traditional firewalls, you need to either use the Azure Firewall. This is a managed service that allows you to basically redirect all outbound traffic into this traditional firewall, even though it's a fully cloud and managed service. And then as any other firewall, you can configure what happens to the traffic. Does it stays internally? Does it go outside? You can control it. Your other option is to use a network virtual appliance from any third-party vendor that you can implement, and on the same architecture, forward all traffic into this appliance, and then define rules for what will happen to traffic that needs to go outside. Other than this, there are a lot of information inside this document. We're going to share later on after this recording. If you need to go outside from internal resources to the public internet, you need to use services like NAT gateways. You need to maybe you need to assign public IPs. There's a cost implication for this, but there are a couple of alternatives for using for designing applications that will either stay internally, or if they need to have an external access to external resources, we need to understand what are our alternatives for configuring the right architecture. So this is the news from Microsoft side. Let's move on to Google. So Google Cloud, they released a blog post. Actually, this month is the second one in a series, relates to cloud financial operation, or FinOps. So now it's called 5 more ways to save on compute cost. And this is, as I said, it's the second part. The previous part was released in May 2024. Some of the new recommendations for in this blog post, specifically for Google Compute Engine, the virtual machines, it's use when you don't use on a virtual machine, when you don't use public IPs, release them. You'll be able to save a lot of cost, because the cost there is a cost for assigning public IPs. Secondly, remember to turn off machines when not in use. I mean, logically it makes sense, and logically in production you won't be doing this. But if you are having development environment, QA environment, and you don't use them over the weekends, because naturally your teams are not working, use scripts to automatically shut them down, and maybe when the next week begins, automatically power them on, and you'll be able to save cost on the resources where they are not using. Another option, very famous in all cloud vendors, is the use of spot VMs, meaning use the extra capacity that the cloud vendor has in their data centers, and temporarily list it in a much less expensive price out of the regular price. So if you have a workload that is able to survive sudden disruption, like bad jobs, for example, use spot images spot VMs, you will be able to save a lot of money on a monthly basis. Probably the next one is the next recommendation from the document talks about compare the price between regions. Let's say you're a customer, you need to allow access to your resources from the public internet, and you don't have specific restrictions from a specific regulation that says your data or your customer data needs to stay in a specific region, country, whatever. If you don't have these kind of limitations, look at their official price list for the same product that you're trying to consume and pick the cheapest one. So very good recommendation, not something new, but again, very good recommendation. Lastly, and this is, I'm guessing, because I never heard about it in another cloud vendors, it's called automated time limits. Basically, it allows us to configure when to turn off the VM for workload with predictable running times. So again, another nice recommendation for saving cost when running applications in the cloud. Another announcement that came to the market relates to generative AI, because we can't have monthly news without talking about generative AI. So one of the famous companies that are generating AI models is called Anthropic. And Anthropic released this month the Claude 3.5 Sonnet. If you're not familiar with Claude, it's a generative AI model, especially built for text generation, vision analysis, like conversion from image to text, code generation, such as HTML, CSS, image to JSON, and more, and multilingual processing for language translation in real time. Anthropic says that Claude 3.5 Sonnet will be far better at writing and translating code, interpreting charts and graphs, and transcribing text from images. This new and improved version of Claude is also apparently better at understanding humor and can write in a much more human way. And lastly, following Anthropic announcement, currently Claude 3.5 Sonnet is available both for Amazon Bedrock and for Google Vertex AI. So are you excited about having some human humor as part of generative AI models?
Absolutely, because it finally engineers can write a funny code.
And not just code that when we're trying to do code review, we don't laugh at all.
I love it. I love it. I think I will use it. This was so useful. Yeah, I learned so many new things. Thank you.
Okay. So this is our recording for today. As always, you're welcome to follow us on social media. We're Global Tech TV, sometimes with underscore at the end, depends on the platform itself. Feel free to write to us, ask us questions, and suggest future topics that you want us to discuss about. So till next time, bye.
Bye. Thank you.